Hello, good evening, and welcome to the program. This is Sunday Politics live on Trust TV. My name is Abdullahi Ahmed. Thank you most kindly for joining us on this week's edition of the program. Now, the current state of affairs in Nigeria is continuing to generate polarizing views across the country, with the Tinubu administration bearing the brunt of the criticisms and the backlash over the ongoing economic reforms. This past week, like the weeks before that, insecurity has taken over the headlines. The poor state of the economy has continued to worsen as millions of Nigerians struggle to make ends meet. The 2024 budget is back in the news again, following allegations by the Northern Senate caucus of alleged padding by the federal government of the country, causing yet another backlash for the Tinubu government. So what are Nigerians to make of the current trajectory of the giant of Africa? Is hope fading away, or is the hope renewal strategy still pretty much in play? Joining us tonight on the program is public affairs analyst Emmanuel Osemeka. Thank you so much for joining us on the program. It's good to see you again.
Good evening, and thank you for having me.
Right. Let me just dive in by, gauging your thoughts on recent developments. This past week, for instance, Benue State, Borno State, and Kaduna State have been in the news for all the wrong reasons. In Borno, so we started with, IDPs getting attacked by Boko Haram insurgents, with all of the efforts the government has been putting in place to relocate them, all the funds that have been channeled towards rebuilding those communities that have been sacked by the insurgents. Then in Benue, the recurrent, attacks across communities, leaving so many people dead and the lives and livelihood of people disrupted. And to cap it all, in Kaduna State, the kidnapping of over 200 students and pupils. And this obviously marks yet another feeling of a resurgence of the insecurity that has engulfed this country for the past 10 years or so. What is your reaction to these developments, and what do they signpost for you?
First off, I want to say that it's very unfortunate that we've gone full circle. The Chibok situation that happened in 2014, the Dapchi situation that happened, I think that should be 2017 or thereabout. Right. It clearly shows we've not learned anything as a government or as a people. When Chibok happened, it appeared like it was a mistake. Or we made mistakes, we made wrong calls. We made wrong calls by allowing the children to take the exam at a specific place. We made wrong calls because we refused to respect the advisory that all the children should move to Maiduguri. So we could attribute wrong calls left and right, and we could say, oh, okay, fine, we made wrong calls. Afterwards, a lot of things, came to fore. The Safe School initiatives came to fore. It was supported across the globe with pledges made. Then follow up, we had Safe School policy that was, properly crafted to help the implementation of the Safe School initiative. Unfortunately, that's where it stopped. So when you look across the IDP situations, the insurgents attacks, and of course the kidnappings, you go to Benue State, which appears to be the entire state appears to be internally displaced state, with the sitting government not necessarily, fashioning out strategies or clear plans on what to do and how to do. You can give it to the Borno State governor. He's doing something. You could see houses were built and people relocated. So the issue probably may look at is it very safe for those people who are there? So that's a different kettle of fish entirely. So you could say Borno is performing. Work in progress. Yeah. Right. Unlike Benue State. Then you come to Kaduna. What I heard is that, it's unconfirmed report, is that the kidnapped children and teachers is over 300 actually. That the kidnap took place in both the secondary
and the primary school.
Yeah. So the primary school is about 120 or thereabouts, while the secondary school is about 280 something. Now, the major challenge we have across Nigeria but predominantly from north central all the way to the northeast, northwest, and major part of the country is when you go through our public schools, public primary and secondary school, you notice one thing that is common. There are no perimeter fences across all our schools from the north central, northeast, and northwest. Predominantly, you have same in the southwest. Quite a number of schools in the southeast are like that. In the south, you still have a lot of that. I don't know if it's a policy. I don't know the reason you have that. But I believe that once there is a perimeter fence, it creates some sort of semi-protection for the pupils. And when you take a cursory look at this particular school in Kaduna that is just within and adjoining the forest, the Kajuri forest and the rest of them, it's just a clear, complete expanse and open field that these guys can walk in and walk out.
Isn't that setup contradicting the idea of the Safe School Initiative itself?
Of course it is. Of course it is completely. What we've seen clearly over the years, I've been in the humanitarian sector for the past 10 years. And I worked deeply in Borno, Poluka, Goza, Ngoshe, Limankara, Madagali, Bichika. Across the deep Mandara areas and all that. So we saw a lot of these clearly. We built schools for the people. We relocated people. We created some livelihood activities within the area. But what we've discovered is that our government across board, we don't have the local government anywhere, but the state and the federal government, they simply pay lip service to a lot of ideas. So we're not in search of ideas. Our major challenge is implementation. Why? Because we don't have a sense of continuity. We continue what appears to give political mileage to the sitting governor or the incoming governor or the incoming government or the incoming political party, right, or what have you. So our mindset is not developmental. Just like most often when I have the opportunity and we sit and we talk about policing in Nigeria, I say we can never get it right with policing in Nigeria the way it's currently set up. Because the policing in Nigeria today came from the constabulary, where the police was set up to protect the elite. So the Nigerian constabulary, back in the days when the Nigerian police was set up, back then, the Nigerian Army, Air Force and Co were part of that constabulary. The essence of that creation was to protect the colonial masters from us. The Nigerian police today is set up to protect the people in government or highly placed individuals. That is why if you are highly placed, you will have at least 1 or 2 policemen. Your wife will have at least 1 police person. Your children will have 1 police person. But the ordinary people on the street will not have any police to protect them. That is the way the Nigerian
You're saying structurally there's a design flaw.
Yes.
And that's why all of the reforms, all of the tweaking...
It can never work. It can never work. Across the globe, what you see is that 1 policeman to a certain number of people. I think I hear it's about 8,000 or 800.
Give or take.
I'm not sure the exact numbers. But in Nigeria, we can't even make that allusions because a greater proportion of our personnel are engaged with VIP protection. I can tell you for free, including the DSS, including the civil defense. And in addition, we have, allowed politics to inform the creation of political apparatus. So in the past, we had 1 single security system, the Nigerian constabulary, which was later broken down. The army was taken out, Air Force, Navy, and the likes. But we had the Nigerian Security Organization, the NSO, back then. The Nigerian Security NSO was made up of the current DSS, which we used to call SSS. Even this civil defense you have today was a department. The vehicle inspection office was a unit, not even a department. The road safety The road safety was a department. Go across board. So the VIP protection had a department. So it was just a small unit. Unfortunately, today, the DSS has been made to protect the VIP at the highest level, to gather intelligence as a result of our experiences over the years. But what has happened, and what I'm still marveled at today, is that we sit down, we say, oh, we have a pipeline problem. We create NSCDC to do pipeline, and we create a special apparatus with the overhead, humongous overhead. You have a DG or the commandant or whatever the name is. We create the customs service. We create the immigration service. We create all kinds of services. We create the correctional service. All of these were part of the NSO, the Nigerian Security Organization, back then, with one single, what do you call it?
Central Command.
Central Command. That way, they all sit at the table at the time of the NSO, and they had one common goal.
Isn't that part of the problem, though? Because now we see this renewed agitation for decentralization of not just the security architecture, but even the political power that the federal government has right now. We talk about restructuring, we talk about devolution of powers, and giving the states or subnationals a lot more power to control, because they have, direct contact with the people at the grassroots level that need some of these interventions to help navigate everyday life. I mean, you're saying the system before now was a lot more effective compared to what it is now. However, the agitations right now seem to be supporting us, going back to the idea of decentralization, community policing, state policing, and so on and so forth, localizing it to address local issues. So
the issue is, do you continue to do the same thing the same way and expect a different result? The answer is no. It's only a fool. It's only a tree that you will tell, I'm going to cut you down tomorrow. The tree will remain there because it's a tree. The challenge we have today requires a reinvigoration of ideas and clear strategies. One of the major flaws and weaknesses we have in our security architecture is that every structure of the Nigerian society, via the security organizations, operate in silos. So you have a major challenge with synergy across board. Today, you have interagency rivalry. So, for example, you hear a situation where the DSS will get intelligence and probably pass it on to the police. Because that intelligence did not come from the police, someone will decide not to act or feel, okay, we need to verify that intel. Or maybe,
but to be fair,
yes.
One would say that, away from speculation, 9 times out of 10, they usually work together, don't they?
Well, it remains to be seen, because most often when you hear retired commissioner of police or retired brigadier generals or major generals, there is one thing that is constant in all their submissions, that we need to cut out this operationalization of our security system in silos. And there must be concerted effort to ensure that there is collaboration. You may go to a particular street, you hear that, oh, the government has initiated what they call, maybe, for want of a better name, Python dance. The Python dance the Nigerian Army does, they do it in collaboration with other agencies. That's not interagency collaboration. That is an operation, a singular operation. Within that state, the Commissioner of Police is still the #1 security chief. Yes, by name, the governor is the chief security officer, but by name. But by practice, the Commissioner of Police is the #1. If it's a state that has a military structure, so you have a GOC who most likely will be senior to the Commissioner of Police. But because it's a civilian activity, it allows the police to take the lead, but they have their own core responsibility. But if you check critically, the relationship between the military and the police, the civil defense, the road safety, the immigration, the customs, because they all have their responsibilities. You've discovered that they all have their individual intelligence that is at variance with one another. So most often, they don't come together to sit and fertilize ideas, cross-fertilize ideas based on the different notions that come from their intelligence gathering. So, but in the past, you had one single command, but different structures. That way, you sit at a table and you decide where, how, and what to do. So it's easier. We may have bastardized it now using politics and the rest of them. You know, that's one of the things people say, oh, the police is one single command from Abuja and all that. But even if you do community policing, you're not going to run away from the federal police.
Right. And in talking about the Kaduna abductions, the Kuriga Kaduna abductions of students and some of their teachers, as well as the pupils, we're seeing this concerted effort, at least from the reactions of the Kaduna state government, the federal government. The vice president was also in Kaduna to commiserate with the state over what had happened.
Yes.
And unfortunately for Kaduna, the 2 times or 3 times the the presidency visits, whether it's the president or the vice president, is because of a tragedy. The Tudumbiri incident happened late last year, and now this time around again, the vice president is visiting, not on a happy note. Give me a sense of what this signposts as far as the scale of the challenge, the scale of the problem is concerned, whether there is any sort of quick turnaround that the Tinubu administration can achieve. He's given his directive. Make sure you return these children safe and unharmed back to their families. But we've heard this before from several administrations in the past, and nothing happens, so to say. So
I repeat it again. It appears clearly that there are no lessons have been learned from the failures, vis the Jonathan administration, the failures vis, the Buhari administration, and the Tinubu administration. In fact, the Tinubu administration appears to look like the Buhari administration in a sense. It appears that all the errors made by the Buhari administration, which we assume that maybe those errors appeared because Buhari was not really, healthy. He was battling with his health for a very long time. By the time he returned, he needed to recuperate, so he didn't have that 100% ability to do the yeoman's job that the Buhari many people thought would do. So that excuse may suffice for him, even though there is no excuse for, failing in situations like this. Unfortunately, the Tinubu administration is in a hurry to score political points without sitting down to take a clear look at our issues, challenges, with the intent to proffer enduring and lasting solutions. I believe that, for example, when I took over from my predecessor, who served for like 6 years, the first thing I did, I didn't make any pronouncement the first 1 month. The first thing I did was to take a closer look at the handover note. I set up a committee to give me an executive summary of the key messages from the handover note, and with action points that we can do short-term, long-term, immediate short-term and long-term. And when that came, I also took time to study it myself. And because that will give you a sense of what the immediate administration was faced with, irrespective of what you saw from outside. Because from outside you see broad, but when you come deep there, you see the details. The Tinubu administration, in my view, has failed to do that. If they did, they probably did a shoddy job. Why? The removal of the subsidy was a fundamental error. The way it was removed, not that the removal was wrong, but the way it was removed, there were no plans, there were no stakeholders engagement, there were no cushioning effect, and that's why we're back to square one. We're paying subsidy again, and you see fuel scarcity all over the place. And fuel is selling for 800, in some places 1,000. The floating of the naira was one of the most I'm trying to find the most appropriate word. One of the most political gymnastic decision any administration could take. Nigerian naira does not trade internationally. There is no country you will take naira to and you will trade with it. So what was the essence of floating it? 2, we just came from a situation where we had scarcity of the naira, and the state governors fought vehemently that the status quo must be maintained. And it was said that the reason for the change of the naira was because there were too many nairas out there that was not in the system.
According to the CBN governor, recently, some 22 or thereabout trillion was printed under the Buhari administration.
Good.
And that reckless mismanagement led us to where we are right now. To
Correct.
Explain that the Tinubu administration pretty much inherited this baggage, this liability, and Nigerians shouldn't expect that it would be an easy ride to find our way out of this. But just to double down on some of these developments before we open our phone lines, we also understand this particular, this past week, just this weekend, the Northern Caucus of senators in the Nigerian Red Chamber came out with a rather, head-scratching, statement to say that, listen, the budget that the National Assembly passed and the one the Tinubu administration is working with are two different things.
Absolutely.
Because it has been padded. Even though the presidency has come out to say, it's misleading,
Yes.
it's false, and things like that. But we've been here before, haven't
Yes,
we?
we have.
In the early days of the Buhari administration.
Absolutely.
You talked about, the similarities between the mistakes, the modus operandi between the Tinubu administration and the Buhari administration, and how history is almost repeating itself
Yes.
again. What do you make of this particular development? I know this is still early days. We're going to hear a lot more from these allegations in the next few days or weeks ahead. But what do you make of it right now?
It's very, very unfortunate. I'm still going to go back to that Naira thing because there's a particular sentence I want to make. The issue is that the National Assembly is in cahoots with the executive. In fact, what we have is worse than a rubber stamp. It's very unfortunate that the way our system operates says, that every senator or every member of the House of Representatives holds their seats at the pleasure of the presiding officer. Very unfortunate. If I understand that clearly, what it meant is that until you are called upon, you can't speak. And when you're shut down, you keep quiet. But that's not what you have in other climes. In other climes, yes, you hold your seats at the pleasure of the presiding officer, but you must be given the opportunity to air your opinion. Unfortunately, there are many things that have come up on the floor of the Senate that we've heard that the Senate president shushed. And if you listen carefully, a case in point is former Governor Adams Oshomole. If you listen to him, sometimes you wonder if he's an APC senator or he's an opposition senator. But probably because he's coming from the labor movement and he sort of is a populist kind of person. And he understands that posterity will judge him for decisions he took part in taking. For example, look at the shame. 22.7 trillion was brought for securitization. The senators were telling each other, you were there, you were part of the, this was said I was not there. This was said I was there. What a show of shame. The Senate never had powers anywhere to securitize anything. It's not anywhere in our laws. What the government needed to have done was to pay back that money or find a way, use a special purpose vehicle and get that special purpose vehicle to buy that debt. Then occasionally they bring it out as bond. That's how to run an economy. Unfortunately, the Tinubu administration is operating like Buhari administration. That's why, because the only excuse I can give for the two variants of the budget is that the budget that was passed was predicated on, I think, $700 per barrel or $800 per barrel.
I think $70 to $80 a barrel.
About that, $70 or $80 per barrel. Today,
I think 74.
And the exchange rate is predicated on what? Almost this 800 naira.
Yeah.
Or there. Today, the exchange rate is pegged at 1,300 by CBN. CBN sells to the bank at 1,301, while the banks and NAFEX sells between 1,500 and 1,600. It is practically impossible for that budget to be operationalized with what was passed. Unfortunately, many believe that the executive power of the president supersedes the constitutional powers of the National Assembly. That's why they behave the way they behave. And that's why I've harped consistently that the Tinubu administration is borrowing leave from the way the Buhari administration operated, because the Buhari administration broke so many laws, yet the National Assembly did not deem it necessary or appropriate to call the administration to order, most especially during the second term, because during the first term, they had sort of a proper checkmate from the 8th Assembly, led by Bukola Saraki, you know, who operated like a quasi-opposition. But it was not necessary. In my view, what they did was what the parliament should do. If you bring something that will not benefit the country, this parliament should say, no, can we review this and probably do it better? Unfortunately, throughout the second term of Buhari, the Senate led by Ahmed Lawan just approved any and everything that was brought to them. And we didn't have that checks and balance. And that's why we're where we are today. And the same thing is happening under Senate President Godswill Akpabio. And this, so I'm not surprised that we have 2 budgets. If you check critically, we might actually have 3 budgets.
Right, but of course, what they're alluding to is the fact that there needs to be an appropriation before any sort of variation is approved, because that is what is contained in. Just to get the facts right, the proposal, the projected exchange rate when the Tinubu administration submitted the budget was 750 naira to the dollar.
Correct.
Now the National Assembly then jacked it up to 800 naira to the dollar, which has been overtaken now clearly by the current economic realities so far. But just to address one particular point that has perhaps as an Abuja resident yourself you can relate to before we get to the phone lines, is the power outages. This time of the year, we know it's a heat season, and unfortunately for some reason you always expect power outages this time of the year. And the vandalism, the level of vandalism, the issues within the sector itself, with the gas payments, you know, how the government is in debt for all the gas supplies that we need to generate electricity and so on and so forth. The minister threatening to revoke the licenses of BDs, of power distribution companies who are underperforming and so on and so forth. Do you think that there is some sort of a meaningful approach to addressing the power shortages? Because as the economic slowdown itself depends on these structural issues for us to supercharge the economy.
Absolutely. So this is one of the things, you know, I was trying to explain, that when you fail to sit down and take a look at where the rain started beating you, you know, according to our local parlance, you wouldn't know when the rain stopped beating you. You inherited, you know, challenges. Your coming on board, supposedly, is to better those challenges, resolve those challenges, improve upon those challenges. Unfortunately, when you came in, the problems exacerbated. You cannot, in good conscience, blame the people that handed over to you, because what they handed over to you was not where you are now. You may say, oh, that there were certain inactions, or there are certain actions that, you know, gave rise to where you are today.
Does it surprise you that the Tinubu administration is not even covertly, but overtly going after the track record of the Buhari administration to explain why it is unable to address some of the gaps within the system?
Unfortunately, they can no longer blame the 16 years of PDP, because the 16 years of PDP that the Buhari administration blamed for 8 years appears to be better. In fact, the 33 years of the military regime appears to be fantastic. And someone told me a few days ago that it appears that President Olusegun Obasanjo seemed to be the best president Nigeria has had so far. I said, well, reasonably yes, he had a second, he was there before, and he came back. So he had a second stint. So definitely he will be able to do better. But it depends on where you're standing. Some people will say, oh, that the Jonathan administration was better. Some will say the Obasanjo administration. But the reality is that Nigerians have never had it this bad. The electricity situation, we all are aware that is usually pretty hot around this time. But the power outages have never been as frequent, unstable, unavailable as it is today.
Okay, let's get over to our phone lines. Hopefully our viewers are able to have the power supply to watch this program right now and to give us a call. A quick reminder anyway that you can watch us on the go, just in case for some reason the power goes out. You can join our YouTube and Facebook live streams so that you can stay in touch with the conversation. Our handles are there on your TV screens to follow. Also check out our website, trusttv.com. Our phone lines are now open in case you want to add your voice, weigh in on the conversation, talk about the security, the insecurity that is resurging right now across different parts of the country, an issue that most people can relate. And of course, the issue of the power outages. What do you have to say about some of these developments? We'd love to get your take on this one. Give us a call. Quick rules of engagement: turn down the volume of your TV set while calling in. Try to be as articulate and as concise as you can be so we can allow for more voices to be heard on the program tonight. The number is showing on your TV screen. And regards to that question about, you know, the renewed hope agenda, where do you stand right now as a Nigerian? Are you on the side that, okay, it's darkest before dawn, so we're gonna? Are you inspired that these reforms would, you know, turn things around?
It's very difficult for me to answer that question because I'm a statistician by training. I majored in mathematics, and I'm a statistician by training. We had certain stakeholders engagement. I will not mention which particular, and we were trying to analyze, you know, the challenges, our developmental challenges, and the thoughts were like, you know, many were of the opinion that the Buhari administration, when Buhari took over the reins of leadership from President Goodluck Jonathan, Nigerians were on the floor. We were on the floor, on the pavement. So that the idea or the expectation was that Buhari would have made Nigerians to at least kneel or squat. But what he did was that he began to dig, continued to dig for 8 years. When Tinubu came on board, he poured Nigerians into the place and covered the sand. That was the analysis.
You're basically saying it's over.
Well, it depends on how deep they were able to dig and how shallow these, you know, dug holes are. The truth is, if I take you back to the analogy I was making, you know, the removal of fuel subsidy without proper, you know, strategies and without proper planning, and the floating of the naira at the same time, which ran out of their hands. The reason, one of the major reasons the floating of the naira ran out of their hands was that it didn't make any economic sense to do it. Even Buhari refused many times to float the naira. Okay? Because he knew clearly that similar things would happen. Now you have so much free money, illicit funds in people's homes. How do you expect those people to launder that money, if not through dollars? They will not take the money into the bank. They would rather use that money to chase the FX. And that was why the FX ran away. Because it is illicit fund, so you would not bargain whatever cost you're giving. And that is what we have till tomorrow. The other school of thought is that when the administration took over, Nigeria was paying interest on our loans with 98% of our income. And IMF advised that the best way was to devalue the currency so that whatever earnings we have in foreign currency, once it's exchanged, we'll get double of that. 50% of it, which used to be our 100%, will be used to pay, which is exactly what they're doing.
Where do you stand with the INEC intervention? Because it appears to be
INEC?
the lead, the IMF.
Okay.
The IMF intervention, because it appears to be the leading organization that is nursing this quote-unquote economic revival for Nigeria and many other countries, whether it's Egypt and other countries beyond just the continent. Where do you stand?
IMF has never been the best advisors.
Okay, just hold your thought there for a moment. I think we have a caller on the line. Hello, good evening, and welcome to the program. What's your name and where are you calling from, please?
Emmanuel from Bida.
Did you say Emmanuel?
Okay. I want to talk on the pardon.
Yeah, go ahead. But just before then, your name, please, and where you're calling from.
The Iowa senators observed that they pardoned about 3 trillion in the budget. And after meeting with the Senate president, he seems to be accepting what is there as they allege. But he said maybe it happened when he was sick. By contacting the presidency is now, yes, the legislature added 1.27. So who is the chief among? Is it the legislative or the presidency? All the two, they are on the same line. We have been deceived in Nigeria. This is too bad. The leader, we are not expecting this thing from their mouth. It's not good.
All right.
We want a good Nigeria.
Right. I can't help but agree with you on that final note. But your name again, please, and where you're calling from.
Suleiman from Bida.
Okay. Suleiman, thank you so much for joining the conversation, Suleiman Bida. Just re-echoing the sense of disappointment that Nigerians feel about these stories whenever they break. However, just to give you the other side of it, the presidency has accused Senator Abdul Ningi of lying and misleading when he claimed that President Bola Tinubu is executing a version of the 2024 budget different from the one passed by the National Assembly. Senator Ningi made the claims during a conversation with the BBC in Hausa, where he said that the 25 trillion naira that was passed for the 2024 budget and not the 28.7 trillion naira, and that is being implemented currently by the federal government. He also is the head of the Northern Senators Forum. Someone else is on the line to join the conversation. Hello, good evening, and welcome to Sunday Politics.
Hello.
Your name and where you're calling from, please.
Hello, Saliu from Castina.
Saliu from Castina. Thank you so much for joining us on the program. Go ahead, Saliu.
Okay, good evening. Good evening to your guest.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Let me just be briefed in the topic, that is the security, the power outage, and the budget pageant.
Right.
Budget pageant. You see, the issue here is we as a Nigerian, we are not serious. That is just the issue. We are not just serious yet. And a lot of us are very disappointed in the president as things are going currently. Like this security issue, let me just speak on this security issue. You know, when some certain individuals are not being held accountable for some certain actions or failures that are happening in the country, we will keep on having these issues that is happening. This is a security issue we are looking at, that the president is looking at it. Those that are to be held liable to it are not being held liable. If, for example, take the issue of Kaduna, the students that were kidnapped in Kaduna last week or within the week. Now, you have security agents in those locations. You have security intelligence in the country. What are they doing? They cannot say they don't have an informant in that place, or they don't have an insight into what is going to happen. Now, when such a thing happens, the first thing that's going to happen is the security head of those states need to be moved out, need to be sacked. Even the IG need to have stepped down if we are very serious in this country. But it's because the presidency take everything. Now, the whole thing is just end up in social media, and that is what everybody go and relax. Just 3 days ago now, another one has happened in Sokoto. So the issue is the president needs to be holding some certain people accountable for some of those things that are happening. If not, nothing will happen. Like the issue of this power outage we are having, the minister is just saying what he needs to say, just to make Nigerians feel as if he's working, but he's not doing anything, because he will keep on making those statements. No any actions will be taken, and those people will just be there doing nothing. The power, as when we speak, I'm running on generator. 6 months there is no light.
Right.
It's very bad. Very bad. The issue of budget padding, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised I've been saying it. If there is any harm of government that needs to be scrapped at this moment, is the Senate. The Senate should be scrapped.
Right.
They are just wasting our resources. They should be scrapped. They should leave the National Assembly, the House of Assembly, House of Rep, sorry to say, if possible. But the Senate as a whole should be scrapped. Seriously, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Saliu. I really appreciate your passionate contribution to the conversation. I mean, Nigerians, you know, have a way to channel their, you know, thoughts that is premised on actually, you know, the history of all the disappointments and the performance.
Absolutely.
Just before we gauge some of those contributions, let's get back to the phone lines. Hello, good evening, and welcome to the program. Your name, please, and where you're calling from.
Yeah, good evening, Abdullah Ahmad and the guests of the studio. I mean, we're trying to keep on the line.
Sorry, come again.
Shamaki,
as always, good to hear from you. Go ahead, Shamaki.
Yeah, I saw what is saying the screen, insecurity, power outages, and budget pattern. Let me start with insecurity. You see, I always say this: the government was built another method of building strategies. You can see what happened in Kaduna School. The matters went and picked pupils and teachers over 200. It's very, very sympathetic and unfortunate. This will discourage parents from taking their children or pupils to school. On the budget problem, the last administration will explain that, which some of us don't even know what study is all about until when it will be explained. So I concur with what the analyst is saying that there is problem in the National Assembly, most especially the sector. They are not hopeful and cheap. What is supposed to be done are publicly developing. So we don't even know the dimension that they are ready to. So we only need good intervention. God bless from this country. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Shamaki. As always, we really appreciate you joining the conversation whenever you can. And of course, we encourage you, if you have a thought that you would like to share, just to weigh in, feel free to call. The number is on your TV screen. Just, you know, what do you make of some of these contributions? Because clearly they are, you know, echoing what many Nigerians have been saying for quite some time now.
Absolutely. These are people from different parts of the country. I mean, for example, the gentleman that called, I think it's Suleiman, that called from Katsina.
I think that was Salihu.
Salihu, okay, from Katsina. We talked about that they've been on generator all day. And if it's a diesel generator, it's probably buying at 1,500. If it's in Abuja, I don't know what it is up there, most likely more expensive. If it's fuel, he'd probably be doing about 1,200 or 1,000 in that axis. So from morning till now, that's unsustainable. So the reality is, it's not enough for the Honorable Minister to be making sweeping statements. What I see and what I've learned over the years is, in every sector, there are models that have worked. For example, if anybody wants to set up a TV station, there are people that have set up TV stations and they understand the mechanics, they understand the challenges. You work with them to help you set up. That way, you won't make the mistakes they made.
Right.
Unfortunately, when you try to reinvent the wheel, this is what you get.
Yeah, you know what they say, you know, if you don't learn from your mistakes, they have a way of repeating themselves.
Absolutely.
Let's get back to the phone line one more time before we wrap things up on the show tonight. Hello, good evening, and welcome to the program. Your name, please, and where you're calling from.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Thank you so much for joining us on the program. Your name, please.
My name is Atugik Veronica. I'm calling from Jos.
Veronica from Jos. How is Jos this evening?
Good evening, sir.
Thank you so much, Veronica, for calling in. Go ahead, please.
Yes, this issue of insecurity, the truth is that let our politicians, they should be honest in what they are doing. And most especially the government, they should do something. They are not being sincere.
Why do you say that? Why do you say they're not being sincere? What makes you say that?
Look at the money that they are giving them. Look at the subvention that is coming. It's not touching people's life in the grassroots. That is the local government. We have insecurity in this country. it is getting out of hand. They should do something about it. The president should call them to order. It is not right. Why are we suffering? Why are they suffering, the masses? What have we done to this country that we are suffering?
Yeah.
Please, let them do the needful. They should allow the security men to do their work. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Veronica, for joining the conversation. It's always beautiful to hear from our Nigerian woman. And for some reason, the fact that she's a woman just said it, and it brought out the emotion out of the conversation.
Absolutely.
There's no explainable, justifiable reason why Nigerians should be going through what they're going right now. And, you know, she talked about the subnationals, the governors. And for the most part, people think they have, you know, stuck to the shadows and allowed President Tinubu to take, you know, all the blame for everything that is going on right now. What do you have to say regarding what she just said right now about Nigerians not getting value for all the money that we've you know, surrendered to our leaders to solve all our problems?
Unfortunately, accountability is far away from Nigeria. I mean, it's worse at the subnational level because the governors are emperors right now. They do whatever they want to do. The state assemblies don't do any. I mean, they just make sure that those who get elected into the state assemblies are their boys. So whatever they want to do, they do it. That's why you see if you have a deputy governor to a governor and the governor is misbehaving and the deputy governor tries to sort of say, can we do something better? He will be impeached in 1 week or 2 weeks. That's what you get because the governors are emperors. Unfortunately, Nigerians also do not understand the powers they have and the way our leadership recruitment strategies and system is already completely faulty. The worst of us are ruling the best of us. Just like I heard, I think it was Mr. Peter B also, either Mr. Peter B or Atiku Abubakar said that the lunatics have taken over the asylum.
It's quite a popular expression.
It's a popular expression.
Yeah.
I think one of them kept repeating that phrase. And each time I keep wondering, what do you mean by that? Why can the lunatic take over the asylum? The reality is that once the worst of us is ruling the best of us, you can't get anything right. And the subnational leaderships across the country are also major drivers of the inflations we have today, because now they are getting more money. I can't see any significant developmental project across Nigeria.
I mean, you know, is it fair to brush all of them, you know, to paint all of them with the same brush?
There might be a few.
I mean, you commended Zulum earlier.
There might be a few.
Alex, Otis.
Yes.
You know, a handful that are quite impressive.
2 out of 36.
Maybe even Sanwo-Olu or something like that.
Sanwo-Olu is different. He has too much money compared to what he's even doing.
I thought you said the problem is they have too much money and that's why they're underperforming.
For example, the Lagos State budget for the year, I think is about 1.7 trillion, if not more. There's no state.
Of course, there's no parity with any other state.
And it's the smallest state in Nigeria. Yes, comparative analysis, it used to be the federal capital of Nigeria, but that's not enough. In FCT, for example, I think after the initial errors, the minister is showing his mettle across the state, the FCT. You could see roads being done, bridges almost being completed, certain places being opened and all that. If you go to at least 25 out of the 36 states, nothing is happening, sir, with all due respect. So, with the exception of Alex Oti in Abia State, with the exception of Zulum, I mean, Zulum is in a different class completely. He's a man who chose to work for his people. I was in Borno while he was a commissioner for RRR. He was exceptional. And he has remained exceptional. His deliveries, I mean, places where he's brought this engineering metal to fore. In Borno, around the Monday market, he built a massive bridge there, flyover and all that. So these are things that several governors came, they couldn't do. He did it in 2 years. Look at Alex Oti, transformed Aba. Unlike Anambra State, the man is speaking English every day. You go to Delta State, with so much money, there's nothing on ground. River State, I don't even know what's going on there. You go to Ekiti, you go to Osun, you go to Ondo. This, maybe Oyo may be doing some, because he's been there for 4 years, this is his second term, Oyo to a reasonable extent. So out of 36, you probably may pick up 5 states. That's a failure.
Right, okay. And on that particular note, sad one, or a less than positive one, we're going to have to end the conversation here for now. As you can imagine, the conversation about Nigeria and the current state of affairs will continue in the weeks and months and years to come, pending when Nigerians are able to breathe or perhaps witness some sort of turnaround that gives us the much needed result. Thank you so much for joining us on the program tonight, Emmanuel.
The pleasure is mine.
I appreciate you for your analysis. Thank you so much.
The pleasure is mine. Thank you very much.
And as always, thank you so much for your time and company. Let's do this again. We'll be back next week, live and exclusive as always on Trust TV. Until then, my name is Abdullahi Ahmed. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.